Bitcoin is dumping. We have a head and shoulders in the chart. Clearer if we switch to closing prices. Head and shoulders is a top pattern. Is it over? Was that it? So what do you think? What I can say for sure is that the discussions about triple top will set in. First top, second top, third top, but it's not my default assumption. Right now I see this a little differently. If we go back to this video about 2 weeks ago, here on 5th of March, I already explained it. I'm personally not in the camp saying that there won't be any more corrections. I do think there will be corrections. Panic selling can set in. If and when it happens, I think those will be opportunities that I will want to take advantage of. So how do you tell a correction apart from the actual top? Well, the truth is that you can't. You can't know at the top that it is in fact the top. The objective instead is to figure it out as soon as possible afterwards. And then we have a number of signs and criteria to do that. For now, this looks like a correction, and that's not something I came up with today after it has dumped. Let me share something that I wrote 3 days ago in our Discord, which everyone have access to who have taken the course anytime during the past 5 years. So that was before this thick line, this support level had broken down. Price then was almost 67,000. Now we have broken down that support level, and price today has hit a low of 62,400. So I will break this down for everyone's benefit, but if you're on Discord you get it kind of a little bit more timely. Let's see if the first real correction since January 11 to January 24 is in the works. So January 11 was this scenario 1 that you will remember, which led to 21.6% correction from top to bottom. Then I wrote, would love for that to happen, so we get some new fresh entries. So what do I mean with that? It means that I have some new money that I would love to invest here. Money that I didn't have available to invest a year ago down here when we had those real entries, or this breakout over here, or even here when this inverse head and shoulder confirmed. And I try not to chase entries that have already passed, because usually it's better to sit patiently and wait for a cleaner entry with a cleaner invalidation, but then I didn't find one. So here when price hit 73,000, I felt okay, I probably missed it, we'll have to invest in something else with that money. But now we're finally getting a correction. But 3 days ago it wasn't enough. Still not much, only 11% as mentioned in the Friday TA report yesterday. I wrote this on the Saturday. But at that point I felt we're not there yet. Everyone's still uber bullish. It will be interesting to see if all the new ETF buyers start panicking and profit taking. The net ETF inflows have been massively positive. And if you look at BlackRock's IBIT ETF, inflows have been massive all the way from the start, 11th January 2024. As you remember, in the beginning, the GBTC outflows overwhelmed the inflows. But from 26th of January, there's been net inflows almost all the way. So 11th of January was up here. And then you could see that that was actually when this inverse head and shoulders pattern started forming, as expected, because there are big players buying. The 26th of January, when the inflows were nothing but positive, we really got the right side of this inverse head and shoulder with the right shoulder here, and then off we went. Up, 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 tiny correction, up, 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 up. So all these people who have been buying all the way here, they're all in profit, except the ones who bought at the very end here, and they're up a lot. Say those who bought at 40k, they were up basically 82% in 6 weeks, and they're still up 55%. And if you're a traditional investor and you're up that much in that short time, perhaps some people will start some profit taking. But what will happen now if this correction gets deeper? Perhaps some panic could set in. I don't know, I'm just saying it's a possibility. Will all these people start feeling that their profits are pouring away? And will we get more of what we got yesterday, the 18th of March, the first net outflow since the beginning of the month? And for some reason, I don't know if it's a technicality, but Fidelity's inflow went to almost zero compared to the time periods before, while BlackRock's was still big. But at least perhaps it's possible that this correction starts accelerating here. But let's not get ahead of ourselves in excitement about new and better entries. Let's start by actually looking at the chart pattern targets. First of all, these are on very low time frames. That makes it less reliable. Secondly, the head and shoulders neckline is sloping upwards, which also makes it less reliable. I wrote about this too earlier today in our Discord. Check it if you remember. The pattern target becomes approximately 58k because now this support level here, the 64,900 level, that has broken right now, at least if today's candle closes here. That means that the head and shoulders is in play and target becomes 58k. And that is very close to the diagonal boundary here of this channel. So the first support level is definitely the 56k region over here. But what if it breaks? Okay, let's come back to that later. When I wrote this, the correction was only 11%. Previous bull market corrections have been more like 20% with occasional 30% and extra rare 40% corrections. So let's do our homework a little bit and let's look at that in more detail. Fresh Excel sheet. So let's take the recent one first. The 2019 to 2021 bull market. And let's study the period where the uptrend was still intact and it turned out that it was just a correction. Let's measure and note down how big they were in reverse chronological order. So that one is minus 18.6%. Minus 18.6. The one before that was 26.3%. 26.3. The one before that from high to low was minus 31.5. Before that, these are obviously smaller. You can see it here. This was only minus 15.7, minus 15.7. Let's take a few more. I only want to measure the major ones. But as you see, there's quite a lot of these ones. Minus 20.88, 20.8, minus 19.6, minus 19.6. Then we had the COVID dip. I'm not sure I want to count that as a normal correction. And I also don't want to cover this one where this parabola broke and we got a new one starting from here. I really want to measure the ones where the uptrend was intact and we continued in a very simple, straightforward measure afterwards. This one was minus 18. So during this advance of 6 months and this advance of about 1 year, we had at least 7 rather big corrections. Then let's look at the bull market before that, the 2017 bull market. And again, I want to check the cases where we actually continued in a very simple way with the parabola intact. Here we had minus 25%, here minus 40%, minus 40, here minus 41%, minus 41, here minus 34, here in January 2017, minus 37. As you can see that the corrections here in the 2017 bull market was generally bigger and wilder than during the 2019 and 2020 into early 2021 bull market, where the corrections were typically in the 20% range with occasionally going up to 26-31%. But then I'm not counting these structural shifts like the COVID dip of minus 63% or this ranging price action of minus 55%. Where this parabola had sort of already ended. And the reason I'm doing that is that I want to work with the assumption that this parabola over here is still very much intact. We can discuss exactly how to draw it. Should it be drawn like this, and we won't know that for sure until after the fact. But if it remains intact, how deep correction can we realistically get for new juicy entries? Well, armed with learnings from history, it seems plausible that we could at least get 20% corrections. Maybe if we're lucky, 30%. So where does that take us? Let's zoom in. If you're new to crypto and you feel that your portfolio has been absolutely smashed and slaughtered today, you will be shocked to realize that this correction so far from the top, from 73,700 to today is only 14%, so not 40. Minus 20% would take us approximately to the pattern target from this head and shoulders, about to 58k. 30% would take us perhaps to this volume node here that I just noticed now. Yeah, and could coincide with this parabola that I just drew here. So actually 52k is interesting. I'm going to write this down. Support levels. The first one I mentioned was the pattern target, perhaps down to the diagonal line, 56 to 58k. 56 to 58k. But actually 52k could be an interesting level. The first one is about 21% correction, so that's minus 21%. 52k is minus 29%. Minus 29%. But could there also be more of a doomsday correction scenario? If these ETF buyers start panicking and we start seeing outflows increasing instead. And the great thing is that we don't need to speculate if that will happen or not. We will see it here. We can go in day by day and basically see what they are doing, which is fantastic. So what if we get a 40% correction? Where would that take us? Well, and that's why I started talking about where these ETF buyers started. That would take us down into the zone where the early ETF buyers were operating over here. It would in fact take us about to the neckline of that inverse head and shoulder that broke out. So at minus 40%, we're approximately at 44k US dollars. 44k would take us to 40% correction. And if some sinister guys are trying to liquidate or scare away every single one of these people in profit, they would need to bring price down to approximately 40k, the 40k level. Almost everyone is in loss here. Panic, liquidations, mayhem, and it would be, oh, Bitcoin is dead, it was a scam, look, it's going to zero. Lot of liquidity would present itself. Look at how much liquidity there is in this 40k to 44k range. Look at all this. That might all come loose. Whales could gobble it up. And if it gets that dramatic, if it goes all the way to 40k, that would be a minus 44% correction. 40k would be minus 44% correction. 44% basically never happen. Not if the uptrend is simply sustained, large line gold, happy life, no worries. That has never happened. So that would mean some more structural confusion, head scratching, worried faces, not happy life. But up here to 44k, it could still be just a simple correction with the trend still up. And say we get 44k here somewhere. This bull market parabola we're in would still be intact. No problem whatsoever. I'm not predicting this will happen. I don't think it will happen. I'm just laying out possibilities. But Larsson, how can I take advantage of all this if it happens when I'm already all in? Well, the answer is that you can't really, unless you're more advanced and you're willing to step up in leverage or something like that. But the simple way you can do it is to never be 100% fully invested. So you always have some capital on the side. If crazy happens, if the completely unexpected happens, you're the person who doesn't panic and instead take advantage of it. It probably won't happen, and then you have to use that money to invest in something else. But Larsson, why does this happen? Is Bitcoin a scam? I think it's much simpler. Like I said earlier, I think it's simple profit taking. And as we saw yesterday, referring to the Friday TIA report, I think macro with DXY and yields stalled out everything. And what do I mean with that? Let's check. So the yields, the US government 2-year yield, suddenly last week had a massive up candle. And as you can see, it actually closed the highest weekly candle since last year. During this period, a lot of people thought that the Feds would start lowering the rates soon. They didn't. Instead, this support region held. You can see it so clearly here. Support held, it turned around, and now we got another very strong weekly candle here. So now the breakdown from this chart feels much further away, doesn't it? Similar with the DXY, the US dollar index. It looks strong. It didn't break down. Remember, we came from this huge parabola over here from May 2021 until October 2022. But then it went into this range. A lot of people thought in the beginning of the year that this was going to break down here. It didn't. Instead, the support held. There's no signs of breakdown here. This looks stable now. So stronger US dollar, the denominator in this chart, the Bitcoin to US dollar chart, stronger dollar generally means weaker speculative assets. And I think that contributed to stalling this advance out. I know all the arguments against, but this has been one of the most useful cheat codes over the past 1+ year. The only thing that sometimes give a little bit of advance notice what is going on before it actually happens in the speculative asset charts. So when I saw that, I got a little bit worried. And that combined with huge profits in the ETFs, I think a lot of participants take a pause and take some profits. Here 3 days ago, I wrote support levels 64.9. That broke. That was this level that now has broken today with confirmation of that head and shoulders. And 56k. That's this one that I have captured more here as a range. And then I reminded everyone that 56k is only a 24% correction, so still not that much. Let's be a little bit more accurate. So 58k is minus 21%, 56k is minus 24%. I should write that here. 21 to minus 24%. Or actually, it's 24% to 21%. So 56k would be 24%, 58k would be 21%. If any of these happen, I'm going to take advantage of them. If they do and turn around with large line gold, I'm going to make money. If none of them hit, I'm not going to try to guess when this turns around, while price is down here before the neckline. But there is one possible event. If none of these hit, where is the next logical entry? Because there actually is one, and that would be my entry if none of these hit. I wrote about it this morning in the Discord, check it if you haven't. Otherwise, you should be able to figure it out if you follow this channel for some time. The clue is somewhere here. If you're not a member yet, don't get scammed. The website is ctolarsson.com. Press course and indicator. If you're already a member, get on pro by clicking this link. Looking at the other charts, as I mentioned many times here, when analyzing altcoins, it's usually better to not be on the USD chart, because the only thing you see is basically what Bitcoin is doing. Everything else gets clouded. Switch to the BTC charts instead. ETH BTC is in this range with a clear support where we are exactly right now, which has held 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times so far. Much easier to analyze, much easier to see what is going on. BNB to BTC came into an interesting spot because it actually broke above this support and resistance level at about 0.0076. I have no idea why it broke up. It feels like Solana is eating the use case of the Binance Smart Chain system, but I don't know. Something is happening here. Someone was buying. It will be very interesting to see if this breakout holds. Sol BTC, despite the dramatic decline in US dollar today, nothing has really changed in the Sol to BTC chart. Just wicks in both directions. But of course, when drama increases in BTC, of course can get messy in the altcoins as well. But factually, nothing has changed yet. What other big projects do we have? A lot of you are still asking about Cardano. ADA, honestly, this chart has looked garbage since we literally called the top on the day back here in September 2021, and I don't know, guys. This doesn't look great. XRP is still big, but here is the XRP to BTC chart. This project has moved so slowly over the years, perhaps better analyze on longer time frames. Generally, I don't even need to comment. This doesn't look great. Avalanche, AVAX, that has trended very well on large line and on technical analysis in general. Several big uptrends, early 2021, mid 2021 until early 2022. Then it's actually had these rather big declines. But large line turned around, served up some entries here in November 2023 that can start working itself back up to the higher levels. I don't know. I feel that they are perhaps not the #1 contender for the dominating layer 2 technology at this point. Of course, it could change. Let's take one more. Dogecoin. I'm a little disappointed in Doge. I thought we would be getting a breakout here, but so far this pump has faded and price is right now on the Doge to BTC chart back exactly at support. Let's see if it holds this time. If it does, this would be optimal risk reward, and the key level to cross, as you see very clearly here, is this one as I've drawn it here on the Doge to BTC chart. If it happens, I think it could get very interesting for Doge once again. If it doesn't, better watch out, because we're still 10 times higher, even on the Doge BTC chart, than the lows that we had back here before this huge pump in early 2021 started. Hodl sucks in downtrends, guys, so don't do that. I understand that a lot of people are stressed, nervous, angry at a day like this when price is going down. I hope I've shown you a different perspective of a more analytical mindset, process-based mindset that you can use to try to take advantage of situations like this if we get the deeper corrections where I can guarantee you that most people will start panicking. You will see it all over social media and they will talk about that it will go to zero again. When there's blood in the streets, that's usually the time to buy if, and that is a big if, Larsen line is still gold. Because buying the dip in an uptrend is a sound strategy. Buying the dip in the downtrend is not a good strategy. It is not if looking at the history and approaching this from a purely mathematical perspective. Of course, in the individual case, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea what will happen in the future of markets. But you can study price behavior from a historical context, and if the present and the future at least rhymes with the past, that is valuable, because you have then a chance to get it on average right. So at a day like this, when there is anger and there is frustration and there's angry people writing on Twitter, I actually feel very excited. This is what I've been waiting for some time. We don't know yet if we will get a real proper correction down to some support level that we can take advantage of, but if it happens, I'm definitely going to do it. And if it does not, I'm still happy. I still make money. Then I just keep the entries I have from before. If those support levels never hit, it means that we're continuing up from here. Then we also make money. By being ready for a few different scenarios, you can basically cover both bases. On average, if studying the math, if studying history, that produces better outcomes than try to long the exact bottom with leverage and try to get out at the exact top, because probably it won't work out. Thank you, tack. See you dollars now. Hej då!